Most expensive mobile phone in the country. What on earth are you doing there? Then is it possible Safaricom has identified a blue line and they are not bothered with what competitors are doing? I said articles daily. My videos are free of charge. And many people are kind enough to tell me they were using my notes or my videos to teach. I'm sure majority never tell me. But guess what? It never bothers me. Because you can only give a message I've already given and I've moved on. I'm preparing for the next. Do you understand me? The message I'm teaching here, I'm teaching for the first time. So you can only deal with the regurgitated matter. You can only deal with my leftovers. And that's the space I'm inviting you. Because our Maker created each one of you with that unique space. You see, if we are four of us in the jungle and suddenly a wild tiger confronts us, to be safe, I don't need to be the fastest of the four. I only need to outrun the slowest runner. That makes sense? While I may arrive home alive, that doesn't make me competitive among athletes. I may still lose a local competition and may never qualify for the National Athletics Championships. Because I was only competing with four, and maybe they were the four dada heads in the village. Then if I don't have speed advantage, I've got to devise a different strategy to deal with the tiger. Well, failure in business may not necessarily have life-threatening consequences. Sustained failure in business, unwisely handled, may lead to devastating consequences. It will require you to think on your feet and to turn it around at heartbeat. And this is connecting with who you are. And I have a program to help you find your space, find your place, and connect with the true self. Number 4 and the last one. To gain competitive advantage, number 4 and my last one. Run your race. No doubt the inner house of Sense on One Life Club know that I'm in love with the story of John Stephen Awari, the Tanzanian athlete who was scheduled for marathon in Mexico. During the race, he hurt his leg so badly that he couldn't continue running on the 19th minute. He was badly wounded. He dragged his feet to the finishing line. And when he finally crossed the finishing line, the reporters went over to him and asked him, "Sir, how come you kept on running in excess of an hour after the medals were awarded and the stadium lights had since gone out?" He looked straight into the face of the reporters and said, "Excuse me, gentlemen and ladies, when my country, the nation of Tanzania, sent me to this country and paid the air ticket, they never sent me here to compare myself with the other athletes. They sent me here to finish the race." It is not necessarily important to be the top or the leading person in this life. But it's important for you to know there was no energy reserved. That if the good Lord sets his angels to harvest your soul, there will be no regret. I wonder if God reveals to you on your deathbed all you are meant to be, and realize you didn't even scratch the surface. Not only will that be embarrassing, but believe me, you'll be judged for the gifts you never used. You'll be judged for the talents you sat on. God never designed you to run on the fast track. You are created to run on your track. Somewhere I read, there is a race set before each one of us. Hebrews 12, 1 and 2. The Apostle Paul, writing to his spiritual son Timothy, wrote, and I quote, "I have fought the good fight of faith. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith." 2 Timothy 4:7. I want to suggest there's a race set for you and you alone. You don't need to be number one. You need to finish your race and finish strong. You need to be faithful on your race. Can I therefore suggest some of the struggles you're going through is because you're running somebody else's race. You're not on your track. You're wrestling against the current. What I'm doing tonight is the only thing I know. And I began doing this actively and consciously from a business model when I was still doing my undergraduate studies. And I can tell you with integrity and authority, you flow smoothly. Only when you're within your track. You can't cheat this system because you didn't make yourself. The designer knew what model you are and the assignment that model was supposed to do. How many will confess tonight they have been guilty one day they were driving, say, from Nairobi to Nakuru, and slightly after Zambezi, there was a dude with a junk there. He passed you, Kimadharau. And you got so upset, how can such kind of a car overtake me? And consciously you stepped on that accelerator to prove to them you rule on the highways. And you are able to bypass this guy, and after just some temporal victory, the guy turns on the left to Maimahio. He wasn't headed to Nakuru after all. You're in a race with a dude who was not even aware. How many will confess? Wow, quite some hands there. Yeah. Please run your race. For in the highway of life, people will join this highway at different times and exit at different times. In the highway of life, the models have different capacities. And you might burn out trying to catch up with Kinyanjui's capacity. I might burn out trying to catch up with your capacity. I need to run my race. That is the only time you completely render competition irrelevant, because you're bothered with your finishing line, not other people's races. That's the only time the good Lord will come and tell you, thou good and faithful servant, enter ye into the joy of the Lord. How do I know that? Because the servant was given 5 talents, returned 10. And the one who was given 2 talents returned 4. And the master commended both of them equally. One with 4, one with 10, both of them were rewarded equally. The master didn't endow them equally. He didn't expect equal returns on his investment. But he expected faithfulness. And that's why he judged the guy who never utilized his talents. He wondered why this guy didn't give my money to Barclays, to Standard Chartered, to Commercial Bank, to KCB, to Equity. I would have gotten it back with some interest. He regarded him as unworthy, deserving of hellfire, eternity in hell, for sitting on his talent. I repeat, you will be judged for the talents you refuse to use. And this takes me to our 7th success critical factor. Are you there? Are you learning something? Yes. Team execution. Tonight, we've been discussing a subject, starting business without money. I have no idea anything that requires urgent resource mobilization than a military operation. I have no idea anything that requires team execution with precision than a military operation, because any mistake is fatal, has life and death consequences. But in 1942, the Germans put up a concentration camp. They called it Stalag Luft. It was designed for prisoners of war, POWs. And not just the ordinary POWs, but escapees, people who had escaped prison. They had prison broken before. So this place was believed to be watertight, escape-proof. So every single soldier who was taken into this place, near Zagan, the city in Poland, the German soldiers told him, for you, the war is over. But the POWs were not about to give up, because it was their sworn duty to frustrate the enemy by surviving, by trying to escape, and by giving information to their colleagues who were in the war. So these prisoners decided to organize themselves, and they established a committee and appointed a CEO, Chief Escape Officer, by the name Roger Bushnell. the Royal Air Force squadron leader, and he was up to the task. Now, they agreed that they are going to have about 4 or 5 different departments to manage the escape. And the most critical of it all was to dig the tunnels. So they decided they are going to build 3 tunnels. Just in case one is discovered, they can use the second and the third. They gave them the code names Tom, Dick, and the last one, Harry. But then there was a problem, 2 major problems. The first problem was how to dispose the dirt, because the earth that they were digging was different in color from the one that was surrounding the camp. And the second problem they had was to ensure that the tunnels do not collapse. Now, to deal with the dirt, what they did is that they decided to knit some bags and put them in their trouser legs, and then put the soil, and then walk like a penguin. In fact, the guys who were disposing the dirt were given the code name penguins. Then they had a patch. A patch is a deep hole, where they would go and pour the soil there. And through that method, they disposed, believe it or not, 100 tons. The second method they used were boxes of Red Cross. Then they would surround that Red Cross box, about 6 or 7 men, and then they would dispose it in a deep hole. But then the second challenge was to ensure that the tunnels do not collapse. And they were ambitious because these were 3 tunnels. To ensure that, they had to use the bedboards and show them up with bedrocks. But on the night of escape, 24th of March, precisely 1944, Tom was discovered. The idea here was to get rid of 200 men every single night. They had chosen a very nice night because it was a moonless night, that if they started the operation at 10 a.m., they would succeed. But unfortunately, they also realized that the tunnel was about 10 meters short of the woods. At about 4:45 in the morning, they had a gunshot, and they knew they were already discovered. But they were not escaping through Tom. They were escaping through Harry. They had already suspended the construction of Tom. But by the time the Germans had come to this concentration camp, 73 of them had already escaped. Sadly, 23 of them were recaptured and taken to the cooler, the code name they were using for the confinement cells. If you tried to escape, a confinement cell was a small cell where you are all alone. 23 of them were taken back. And I regret to tell you, 50 of them were executed by order of Adolf Hitler. Only 3 of them made it to freedom. The 3 soldiers were from the UK. Now, I gave you this story because there's something I want us to analyze. Here is a situation whereby these soldiers literally had nothing. For them to do what they were doing, they were using bedrocks. Now think about this. They dug 9 meters deep, cutting through the rock without the right tools, using broken bed pieces. And they cut 30 meters length, each single tunnel. The first problem they had was that there was no oxygen. So they had to make a pump using broken bed pieces to pump oxygen into the dark tunnels. 30 meters in length, 9 meters deep. Then they had another problem. Most of them were American and British soldiers, so they couldn't even speak German. They didn't have the right documents. Even if they went away, they would still be rearrested. So they had to, in the committee, some of them were just specialists as tailors to make clothes that looked like civilian clothes out of their blankets and their uniforms. And then another team was just designed for forgery, to try to develop things that look like Germany ID cards. The Germans knew the soldiers would attempt to escape. So what they had done, they had put bright yellow soil around the camp to enhance the detection. Then they had constructed the camp 60 centimeters off the ground to ensure if you attempt to dig, it will be practically impossible. So these guys were doing it at the dead of the night, in excess of an year, every single day, every minute, every hour, each one of them. And since they had already broken their beds, they were actually sleeping on hammocks, that is, rope mesh beds. They sacrificed their comfort. They sacrificed their sleep because during the day they were working. Please understand, the Germans were following the 1929 Geneva Agreement. They were not mistreating the soldiers. So these guys had a choice to make to stay as life prisoners. They were treated well, they were given food. But they chose not to become prisoners of choicelessness, prisoners of virtual safety. They were not sure about the future. But think about this, they had no tools. They broke what they had. They worked with what they had. And many of us complain we have nothing in our hands. I think the Great Escape will go down the pages of history as the highest demonstration of team execution. Let me suggest this tonight. Team execution precedes victory in business. Business is done by people, for people, and through people. Business centers around people. Have you ever heard someone say, I don't know what's wrong with people? Have you ever heard that? I don't understand employees, and maybe you're even here and you keep saying the same. I don't understand employees, so who do you want to work with? Donkeys? You complain you don't understand employees, so what options do you have? Will you afford all the robots that you need? Even then, they might need an employee to switch them on. Tradition has it that the customer is the most important person in business. I beg to differ. I think your employees are by far the most important people in your business. Treat your employees the way you want them to treat your finest customers. Mistreat your employees and they will mess with your finest customers. We don't build business. We build people, and then people build the business. That needs to sink in your system. It doesn't take genius to realize that a motivated staff will deliver for you than a demotivated staff. Your employees have the same hopes, dreams, and needs, just like the employers in our midst and prospective employers here. If you create the same hopes, they want to drive a nice car like you do. They want to take their children to good schools like you do. They want to go for holiday like you do. They want to visit distant lands like you do. If you start creating hope in them, they begin producing for you. When there is faith in the future, there is power in the present. Employees don't care how rich you are. They care how much you care. What values do you live by? What are your guiding principles? What are your fundamentals? And you know what? When customers come to your shop, they don't read your fundamental beliefs and core values in your strategic plans and service charters and websites. They read them in the lives of your employees. Customers will never love the business until employees love the business. People don't read your values on papers. People read your values in the lives of others. That is what tells me how you treat others. If I come to an office and the secretary or the PA of a boss mistreats me, that immediately tells me the character of the boss. She's deriving the authority from somewhere. She's just embarrassing who you are. You know, a eucalyptus blue gum tree that requires a lot of water has a higher chance of survival in the Sahara than a business with very high staff turnovers. You've got to find how to encourage your staff. You've got to come up with a profit sharing scheme. Respect their leave days. Respect their paternal leaves. And every man said? Amen. Amen. But in essence, the emphasis here is this. If you concentrate on building the team, friends, the team will make the impossible possible, the possible likely, and the likely certain. The Great Escape was not called great because it had never been done before. Prisoners of war had tried to prison break throughout history, and especially during World War II. The Great Escape was not called great because of how successful it was. The results were fatal for most of them. Only 3 of them made it home. It was called great because the task scene impossible. They were doubting. The team execution is something I invite any of you who has never watched the movie The Great Escape to try to do so. You'll be surprised with the coordination of the team. This takes me to number 8. Are you there? Funding. Since we announced starting business without money, I think it's injustice for me to release you without telling you where the money will come from. And I think I'll be generous enough to give you 10 sources of money. Are you ready for the money? In fact, look at your neighbor and tell him, Dr. is about to give you money now. About to give you money. You know, some of you came here for money. So we'd rather talk about the money now. Where is the money coming from? Why did you tell you can do business without money? Now, let's look at 10 ways. Number 1, what do you have? What is in your hands? If you have nothing in your hands, you have nothing to give to the world. The same old question that God asked Moses, what is in your hands? I ask you tonight. And I ask you because of all the 10 sources of money I'm going to discuss with you, number 1 is what worked for me. I began speaking to people when I was in college. I knew that was my purpose. I spoke to students, school by school. Then they invited me to speak to their parents, school by school. Some parents were corporate leaders, company by company. Right now, we have seen, I was looking at our data the other day, our YouTube data, and what surprised me, of all the people listening to us, 13% are from the United Kingdom. Only one single audience I went where I was not known. And I realized that audience was 100% non-Kenyan. The difference between then and where I am right now is time, resolve, persistence, determination, and God's favor. But the truth is, I started where I was. I know without a shadow of doubt, the surest capital is your talents, your gifts, your skills, your expertise, your qualifications. What do you have? I ask you tonight. What is in your hands? Start with what you have. That is the only sure one you're not guessing. Nobody will ever frustrate you with what you have. What have you studied? Are you an accountant? Are you a project manager? Are you a HR expert? Are you a marketer? Are you outgoing? What do you have? Because each one of us here has something to offer to the world. Second source of capital, number 2. Personal savings. Now, I want to say this extremely respectfully. Don't mistake me, but exceptionally few people have the capacity to start business straight away from college. Don't be offended by that. It's just a reality of life. The majority of human beings, including successful entrepreneurs in this country, they had to work somewhere for someone to get seed capital, number 2, experience, and number 3, contacts. I repeat, they got the seed capital, they got experience, and then they got the networks, and then launched on their own. And I can tell you, by the way, I've done a lot of thinking through this subject. I interviewed a lot of people when I was doing this book. I only chose 8 stories. And including these 8 stories, one by one, they were working for someone. So do not have any apology that your story did not start like my story. I've never had a payslip. I found very few people who knew from the word go what they wanted to do in life. It's a journey. Many of us discover along the way. Some of us start jobs that we are not passionate about. What I want to suggest to you, nothing in this life is wasted. All the dots add up to who you are. There is no single training you have done which will go to waste. God knew you were doing it. So invest in your idea first. If you don't believe in your idea, what makes you think others will believe in your idea? If you can't put your own savings into it, what makes you think others will believe in what you're doing? So your own savings are the second source of capital. Number 3. Of course, the most common known, the banks. There's no way you can shy away from the bank because the banks exist for one reason, to give you money. The bank is an interesting institution. This is the only place where the poor and the rich meet. The poor takes money to the bank, and the rich takes money out of the bank. The poor takes money to the bank and tells the banker, fix it. I want it in a fixed deposit account. I have no idea for the next 3 years. Fix that money. Poverty of ideas. The rich with ideas, they say, please, I don't even have enough. In fact, they borrow 10 million, they're told they don't qualify. They can only be given 5 because they are rich with ideas. Ask your neighbor, are you rich or are you a poor girl? Rich or a poor boy? I know banks can give you money if you have a sound business model. I know it. And there are bankers in our midst who can confirm that. Number 4. Where do we get capital? You can get capital from suppliers of goods and services. Now, if you're here and you're a beginner, you've just left college, you're a young person and you're listening to me. If you're not employed and you don't do something by next week, I call you in the presence of all these witnesses. You are a lazy dude. And this is the answer I'm giving you in number 4. You can be credited by suppliers of goods and services. I have seen it. I've talked to young men who did exactly what I'm saying. And it can be anything from this water. And telling the distributor, give me this water. Don't give me 100 of them. Give me just 10 of them. I will sell and come back. Years ago, someone approached me and said they want to keep a huge business in Portly. How many do you want to keep? I'm very ambitious, a young man. I want to keep 10,000 chicken. Fair enough. Give you some money. Go buy some eggs. Sell, because you wanted to keep layers. Go sell these 200 eggs, then come back. I give you the capital. He refused to sell the eggs. What makes you think after 10,000 chicken lay eggs, you'll sell them? What will change? So I'm saying anything you're seeing here tonight, you can literally ask for people to supply to you. If you honestly believe in what you're doing, you can go to a mobile phone shop and pick 3 headsets, leave your clothes, leave your briefcase, leave anything to give this guy who is stocking confidence. Because they want to sell, and they're looking for people who can sell. Go around the ministries of government, go into companies, sell, pay this guy his money back. Build confidence. By buying now 10, 20, 30. There's a lady in Sensual One Life Club, and I have her permission to use her story. I don't know whether she's in our midst, Melanie. That's how exactly she started her construction company. And you can get that story in our YouTube. A lot of people think for you to run such a company, you need millions and millions of shillings. She talked with the guys who are running caterpillars. She talks virtually with the suppliers of road materials, and she hit the road running. You see, capital in kind is cheaper than the capital you get from the bank. And I declare no one here is lazy to sit down and wait for manna from heaven. You see, a lot of people perish because they expect God to give us the harvest. God doesn't work like that. How do I know? I read somewhere in Genesis 8:22. As long as life goes, there will be seed time and harvest time. There will be sowing time and reaping time. Another one in Ecclesiastes 3. There is time for everything. One of the times described there was time for sowing and reaping. You will not go around this. If you don't sow, you will not reap. You can work with suppliers, and it doesn't matter what you're supplying. And that becomes a source of capital. Number 4. Number 5. Is it number 5? 5. Where do we get this capital? From the customers. Let me give my personal case. There is a job I did last month here in Kenya, in early June. In that assignment, and many other assignments I do, the customer paid me 30% before delivery of services. And I've seen that many times. If you build confidence with your customers, you'll find them giving you advance even before you do the job. Where you are right now, we have been coming to this hall and we pay later. And I can go to any single hotel in this city and get credit. Because of my name. You need to build your name. I don't go bothering about the people covering the videos or doing what. Each one of them can bank on my integrity. They can bank on my word. So your own customers are a major source of capital. Number 6, build partnerships. This is a situation whereby you invite partners into your business. Now, if you sell the idea and no one is interested in funding you, I have a suggestion for you. You don't have an idea. People don't give people money. People invest in a vision. Clarify your vision. A mediocre idea has a higher chance of being funded than a superior idea that cannot be explained. Now, let me ask you, have you ever heard someone say this? I know exactly what I want to do, but I don't know how to explain it. If you can't explain it, you don't have it. What makes you think if no partner can understand you, customers will understand you? What makes you think that customers have a superior brain than partners? Did you know even God does not answer unspecified prayers? If I suggest this, before you submit your petitions to God in prayers, clarify your thinking. How do I know? Jesus said this. Jesus said this. When you pray, do not be like the Pharisees who think they'll be heard because of their long prayers and many words. He called it babbling. In other words, clarify your thinking before you even petition before God. What makes you think that mere mortals, will be able to understand you if God is struggling? and he's telling you, you think first what you want to pray for. Don't repeat yourself. I've got ears. I already know your needs. Come straight and speak to me what you want. Number 7, give space to strategic investors. Give space to strategic investors. Now, this is different from number 6. Let me explain the difference. Number 6 are partners who are coming to work with you in the business. For example, you want to run a kindergarten, you have the skills, you have the expertise, you have no money. So you'll be doing the teaching and you invite someone to be the finance director, but they're in the business with you. Or they are better in marketing and you're better in the technical. That's partnership. Now, number 7 is different. Strategic investors don't come to your business. They don't run the show. They wait for you to declare the dividends at the end of the year. This is what I had said earlier on. Leave space to some shareholding. For people who do not have time for your business, they just identify what is working and they help you to grow faster